This is one of the most isolated and inhospitable parts of China. The rugged landscape here is home to some of the rarest and most distinctive animals known to man. And it's one of the last sanctuaries of China's most famous inhabitants. Now we follow an international team of filmmakers as they spend 2 years deep in the heart of one of China's last refuges. Witnessing rare moments to reveal an intimate portrait of the secret and complex life of the giant panda. The Qiling Mountains in the heart of central China extend for more than 120,000 kilometers. This spine of mountains forms a lush natural divide between North and South China. The north-facing slopes trap cold winter winds to create year-round mists. With unyielding rainfall, uncompromising terrain, and hostile weather, few people travel here and ever witness the mountain's most prized inhabitant, the giant panda. The camera team must be prepared. Pandas live at elevations above 1,500 meters, so the crew will need to venture high into the forest and up steep slopes covered in trees. The highest peaks of the Qiling Mountains are well over 3,500 meters. Dense thickets of bamboo, the panda's primary food source, grow along these ridges. The team comes upon its first clue: panda droppings, still leafy and green. Bamboo is a difficult plant to digest, and pandas absorb very little of what they eat. The team also discovers some white panda hairs clinging to the bark of a tree. These bamboo forests provide a unique habitat for some of China's most magnificent wildlife. The golden snub-nosed monkey is prized for its fur. These highly social monkeys spend most of the day feeding. In the summer, up to 600 animals can congregate to form some of the largest monkey troops in the world. The male-to-female ratio leans in favor of the male, and each dominant male usually has up to 5 female companions in tow. During the summer, they feast on everything, from leaves and pine needles to bark and seeds. The crested ibis is another rare species that calls this remote part of China home. Once common throughout Asia, their numbers declined due to habitat destruction, poaching, and the use of pesticides. They are now among the rarest birds in the world, with only about 80 remaining in the wild. The team climbs to above 3,000 meters and deeper into panda territory. Finally, they reach their destination, where they hope their long hike will pay off. After watching in vain for over 10 days, the team has its first big breakthrough. A giant panda comes into view, but then quickly disappears into the undergrowth. They have to move fast if they're to get another glimpse. It's difficult to see in the dense bamboo thickets, so they quickly climb to a higher vantage point. Their strategy pays off. From here they can see a large male panda, perhaps weighing as much as 100 kilograms. The panda hesitates nervously, but eventually decides it's safe to move down the slope. Once cloaked by forest, he begins to feed. Pandas are vegetarians, but they evolved from carnivores. In fact, their digestive systems still reflect those of carnivores and are inefficient at breaking down bamboo. As a result, pandas only assimilate about 17% of what they ingest. This inefficiency means that a giant panda has to spend up to 16 hours a day consuming as much as 18 kilograms of bamboo just to survive. That's the equivalent of a human eating almost 40 loaves of bread a day. Pandas have evolved into one of the most specialized mammals in the world, with bamboo forming almost 99% of their diet. It's believed that giant pandas branched off from carnivorous bears around 22 million years ago. These early ancestors ranged throughout China, Burma, and Vietnam, and first appeared in fossilized records during the early Pleistocene period, around 3 million years ago. During the late Pleistocene, 18,000 years ago, huge glaciers spread over the northern hemisphere, driving the giant panda's ancestors south. These survivors formed the main lineage of the giant panda, eventually reaching the highlands of China, where they evolved into the species we know today. One of the panda's strangest adaptations was the evolution of an extra digit. This pseudo-thumb is really an extension of a tiny wrist bone, the radial sesamoid, which is something all carnivores possess. This gives the panda the use of 6 digits when grasping bamboo stems. In the skull, evidence can be seen of how the panda's carnivorous ancestors adapted to a herbivorous diet. The jawbones have been strengthened to accommodate the massive muscles a panda needs to crush and chew bamboo. These large muscles also give the giant panda its endearingly chubby cheeks. In order to grind up vast quantities of fibrous bamboo, the chewing surfaces of the molars are also much wider than a carnivore's. Even the panda's throat has been modified. The esophagus is lined with horny folds that protect the surface from damage by sharp fibers. But the panda still retains the relatively short colon of a carnivore, which is why it's so inefficient at absorbing nutrients from bamboo. When early spring arrives in the Chiling Mountains, streams and rivers swell with water from melting snow. Along these slopes, thousands of species of plants flourish, some found nowhere else on Earth. The camera team searches for more clues to increase their chances of finding another panda. Soon, they have an astonishing stroke of luck. They spot a young panda sleeping in a tree. It looks about 2 years old, so it's normal for him to be roaming independently at this age. His schedule will consist primarily of eating, with the rest of his time spent sleeping it off. Pandas often take afternoon naps in trees, but they don't hibernate like other bears. Today, only 1,600 giant pandas survive in the wild. Of these, between 220 and 300 are believed to live here. In a recent breakthrough, the giant pandas found in these mountains have been identified as a possible new subspecies. They are believed to have separated from a group of bears in the Sichuan mountains. This population has become isolated from the main Sichuan and Gansu populations and is now confined to high and inaccessible ridges, making the pandas difficult to track. But the team gets an unexpected break. Local scientists monitoring the giant pandas in another area radio to warn them that a panda has been spotted heading their way. He's not in much of a rush. Upon his arrival, he seems remarkably indifferent to the presence of his visitors and ventures so close to the team that he knocks over a piece of equipment in his path. A second panda follows close behind. This one also seems unconcerned and passes by the crew without giving them so much as a glance. Something appears to be luring the pandas to a particular spot much higher up the mountain. Local scientists believe that this sort of behavior is often prevalent at the start of the breeding season, when many males gather on a particular ridge, waiting for access to females. In this rugged terrain, it can take the team several hours to cover even a small area on foot, and the mysterious trysting ground is located at 3,000 meters. It's a harsh journey, and these inhospitable and dense bamboo thickets are almost impenetrable in places. The team discovers a female panda on her way to the ridge. She lingers at a particular spot and takes a sniff. She begins to rub herself against the tree. At the start of the breeding season, female pandas rub special anal glands against trees to mark the bark with their scent. This lets male pandas know that they're ready to mate. The female uses her stubby tail like a brush, painting her scent onto the bark. It's a high-tech way of communicating in such thick forest. These hormones contain valuable information about an individual panda's sex, health, and fertility. This behavior also explains why the camera team has come across trees with panda hair caught in their bark. Male pandas have no time to waste, because the females are only receptive for a few days a year. The scent of a female panda in heat may be carried some distance by the wind, and will hopefully attract several males to this area. But right now, it's time for a nap. Pandas are happy to sleep anywhere, even on the ground, but they often curl up in elevated spots to avoid other forest creatures. The next morning, the sleeping female is roused by the sound of a branch snapping close by. A male has already tracked her down. The scent markings appear to have done the trick. He smells the trees and the area to get clues about the female's receptiveness and to find out if any other males have already been here. Then he begins to scent mark a nearby tree. This informs the female of his presence and, more importantly, lets other possible suitors know that he was here first. But another male is also hot on this female's trail. He too begins to scent mark. Male giant pandas don't live up to their cuddly reputation when there's a female in the mix. A showdown is about to begin, and these fights can be quite aggressive. Using their sharp teeth and deadly claws, the pandas bite and slash their opponents. Sometimes there are group brawls, with up to 5 males competing for a single female. But only one lucky male will emerge victorious. Evidence of the recent violence can be seen across the forest. Everything in the panda's path was destroyed during their fight. The loser can be hurt, or sometimes even killed. Unfortunately for this winning male, his efforts may have been in vain. Despite his attempts to win her over, the female seems to be uninterested. He tries one more time to attract her. But she still gives him the brush off. Female pandas in captivity are notoriously choosy when it comes to picking mates, making breeding difficult, and it appears to be the same in the wild. But this selectivity is in fact essential. During its lifetime, a female panda will only give birth to between 5 and 8 cubs, so it's vital she chooses the male with the best genes to pass on to her offspring. This female ignores the male's desperate cries and continues to rebuff his advances. Left in doubt about her intentions, he makes a quick, if undignified, escape. It's now mid-April, the height of the panda breeding season. The competition between males at this time is intense because each female is so fleeting in her receptiveness to male attention. The camera team can locate coupling pandas simply by following the excited calls of the males. Successful coupling is necessary if the panda population is to survive. And it's easy to understand why this tiny population is so vulnerable. There are few pandas in the Chiling Mountains to start with, and females don't reach sexual maturity until the age of 5. While other bears successfully raise a cub a year, the giant panda only raises 1 cub every 2 years. The crew discovers another female panda being wooed by an impatient male below. But this time, things are looking up. The male signals his readiness by urgently calling to her. He secures his catch by circling, guarding her from the advances of other males. Finally, he mounts her. Each mating lasts less than a minute, although he may get to mate with her several times. The victorious male had to defeat 3 others in order to win about 30 seconds with her. The unsuccessful suitors remain in the vicinity, keeping an eye on the performance. But eventually they abandon hope and depart in search of other females. When summer comes to the Chiling Mountains, the camera crew enjoys blue skies and calm weather. The crested ibis has succeeded in raising 2 chicks. It's a fragile population, and every additional member helps ensure the survival of the species. But the draining and pollution of wetlands means that fish, crustaceans and frogs are scarce, depleting the bulk of their diet. Although it's now summer, the torrential rains continue. Even when it's not raining, the area is embraced by a thick mist. The mountains form a watershed between the Yellow and Yangtze river valleys, blocking cold air from the north and soaking up rain and mist like a sponge, eventually releasing it in rivers and streams. The bamboo forests have evolved in this moist, wet, and unique climate. This environment supports several different species of bamboo. But giant pandas primarily eat just 2 species, arrow and umbrella bamboo. Every so often, bamboo flowers and then dies. This can affect vast areas at the same time. And if the pandas are unable to find healthy bamboo, they face starvation and death. The bamboo also provides nourishment for many other creatures. This male golden pheasant eats bamboo shoots, although they make up only a small portion of his diet. But other creatures, like the red or lesser panda, are as specialized as the giant panda and need bamboo to survive. Red pandas are closely related to giant pandas, but are believed to have evolved from raccoons rather than bears. They share these forests with large herbivores such as the golden takin, a relative of the musk ox. Both sexes sport a pair of impressive curved horns. These animals are also increasingly under threat from human destruction of forests. But perhaps the strangest bamboo specialist is the bamboo rat. It spends most of its time underground in an extensive network of burrows. From here, it feeds on bamboo roots, gnawing at them from below. Late summer is a critical time. This is when pandas give birth, and they need to seek out dry caves or hollow trees that will shelter them from the worst of the elements. The team uncovers evidence that something has been eating bamboo close to this cave entrance. They wait patiently to discover the identity of the mysterious bamboo eater. Soon, a female panda appears. She looks around cautiously before crawling through the narrow cave opening. Five months after mating, the female has given birth. And the crew catches a rare glimpse of her suckling her cubs. The female will raise her cub alone. Pandas are usually solitary, apart from the short mating season. At birth, giant pandas are tiny, weighing around 100 grams, and they measure about 18 centimeters long, small enough to fit into the palm of a man's hand. With the exception of marsupials, they are the smallest newborn mammals in proportion to their mother's size. They're also pink, almost hairless, and blind. At only a week old, this cub has already developed a thin layer of fur. During the first few weeks, the mother keeps her baby warm, clean, and fed. The cub needs constant attention, as it can suckle for as long as 30 minutes at a time, up to 14 times a day. This drains the mother's energy, and although it's risky, she needs to leave her cub behind to spend 3 or 4 hours replenishing herself. With their mothers gone, cubs are sometimes mistakenly thought to be abandoned. The camera team is worried about disturbing the new cub and decides to return to the spot in a few weeks. When they do, to their surprise, they find the baby lying right at the cave entrance. They're relieved to discover that it's healthy and has been carefully protected by its mother in a bed of bamboo leaves. Baby pandas develop quickly, and their trademark spots appear in as little as 7 days. This panda is about a month old. For the moment, all it can do is cry weakly, but by the time it's 2.5 months, it will have begun to stand and walk. The few unprotected hours when its mother has to forage for food are a dangerous time for a baby panda. Still unable to crawl, it panics and falls from the safety of the nest. This small cub is now very exposed. Adult pandas have few natural predators, but panda cubs are vulnerable to attack from leopards, wild dogs, and even birds of prey. High above, an eagle circles, looking for its next meal. It spots the cub and circles lower to get a closer look. Fortunately, the cub's mother is not far away and hears its plaintive calls. She leaves her meal and rushes to the cub's side. If the mother doesn't nourish herself, she can become weak, which can put both mother and baby in danger. This is one of the consequences of having such a specialized diet. However, if they get the chance, pandas will also eat plant bulbs, bird eggs, and even small rodents. If she feels threatened, a mother will move her cub to a different location by picking it up gently in her mouth. The camera team keeps a safe distance so as not to disturb the family. The mother finds some protection in a rocky crevice deep within a bamboo thicket, just in time for her baby to eat again. The mother gently cradles the cub in her arms as it feeds. Just like a human infant, this cub needs its mother's undivided attention. Occasionally, a panda will give birth to twins, but in these cases it's rare that the second cub will survive without intervention. This intimate and tender scene has rarely been witnessed before in the wild. The cub will depend exclusively on its mother's milk for about 6 months, then gradually be weaned onto a bamboo diet. The cub won't become socially independent until it reaches about 2 years of age, For now, it's content in the comfort of his mother's arms. It's a truly amazing moment to capture in the wild. Giant pandas have been treasured by the Chinese for more than 2,000 years, but it's only relatively recently that they've become known to the West. The French missionary, Armand David, obtained a panda skin from a hunter in 1869. But the first living panda wasn't seen in the West until the start of the 20th century. This triggered a wave of hunting expeditions during the 1920s, when giant panda pelts became prized items. Today, the giant panda is protected, and killing a panda carries severe consequences. But there is now a new threat to the panda's survival: habitat destruction. Pandas are solitary and shy, and avoid contact with humans. But human development is fragmenting their natural habitat, and if their route to healthy bamboo is cut off, pandas simply starve. Not long ago, giant pandas were much more widespread. But by the early to mid-20th century, habitat destruction had left only a few isolated populations in the Chiling Mountains, Sichuan and Gansu. And these populations are becoming progressively more fragmented, increasing the chances of genetic inbreeding. To help preserve this unique species, the World Wildlife Fund and the Shaanxi provincial government have worked together to create new panda reserves and 5 forested corridors that will allow pandas to move freely. It's hoped that the corridors will reunite isolated panda populations. Winter comes to the Chiling Mountains. The torrential rains of summer are now replaced by blizzards and deep snow. Life here becomes increasingly difficult. Apart from the freezing cold, there's now little food to be had. The snub-nosed monkeys have thick, insulating fur that acts as built-in protection against the freezing temperatures. In winter, they descend to lower altitudes and form much smaller groups of about 70 monkeys. Since they can no longer feed on leaves, they now survive on a diet of bark. Microorganisms in the gut help with digestion. At this altitude, temperatures can plummet to minus 20 degrees Celsius. Exposed human skin would begin to freeze in minutes. But fortunately, the winter weather doesn't affect the panda's diet. Bamboo continues to grow even in the cold, which means pandas don't have to hibernate like other bears. Giant pandas are well adapted to this sub-zero environment. Their fur is dense enough to protect against the cold, but also slightly oily, which helps repel the nearly constant moisture. But for a mother with a young cub searching for shelter, the freezing temperatures can be a serious problem. She'll have to travel to lower altitudes where temperatures are less severe. The camera team follows close behind. Her tracks end in front of a large mound of fallen rocks. Hidden deep inside the natural cave, the mother has found protection against the worst of the weather. The cave will also protect the cub from leopards and other potential predators. The cub is now 3 months old and taking on the challenge of walking. Soon it will be able to follow its mother when she goes out to feed, although it won't start eating bamboo itself until it's at least 6 months old. The cub will have the luxury of its mother's milk for at least another year. At this age, its fur is also beginning to give it some protection against the cold. Soon it will be able to venture out on its own. March arrives, and the worst of winter is over. The snow has melted from all but the highest peaks. The melting snow replenishes the rivers and streams, ensuring that this remains one of the most fertile regions in China. Finally, the gifts of spring arrive. Life now becomes easier. The snub-nosed monkeys will soon have a fresh diet of leaves. Most young monkeys are born at this time of year. There's plenty of food around, so mothers have sufficient energy reserves to feed their infants. Curious monkeys look on as one mother suckles her week-old baby. Back at the cave entrance, the panda cub wants his mother. Having been confined to the darkness of the cave for such a long time, the bright sunlight and forest sounds overwhelm the baby cub. It can hear its mother close by, but it's too frightened to make a move. The cub is hungry and does everything it can to attract her attention. The cub starts to get impatient. The mother continues to climb higher up the slope, occupied with feeding herself. Realizing that its calls are in vain, the cub decides to take a risk and climb a tree in search of its mother. It's barely begun to walk, so this tree climbing ability is remarkable. But it's an essential skill if the cub is to survive. It won't be long before it's able to take care of itself and establish a territory of its own. This new member of the Chiling population is a symbol of hope for the future survival of the giant panda.